I think the challenge is that everyone's thinking about a prompt as a replacement for someone's job. And therefore, that's why I think we've not seen wide-scale adoption. People going, this is actually, if you think of it as a really bright male intern who is never in doubt, not necessarily right, but never in doubt. And if you prompt that your intern, say, I very badly, you end up with really poor answers. If you say to your intern, can you book me a restaurant? They go and book your restaurant for next Tuesday, and they go, oh, no, I didn't mean that. No, actually, I want it for the week after. And they come back, I've done a week after. And you go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. That's a really bad prompting experience versus saying to your intern, I want to impress a client. There are 4 of us, loves Italian and Mexican. Next Tuesday, they're driving in. Then the result will be, I've booked you a private room because you want to impress them. I've booked it in this restaurant because I got great parking space. You said it was lunchtime and you said it was a business meeting, so I've booked it for 2 hours. And you said it was 4 people done. And I think that sometimes the prompts can be quite long. And you go, well, hang on, I've written this huge rate prompt to get quite a short answer. That's not a problem if you're going to reuse that prompt again and again and again. And we need to get back into a prompt is almost like a template if we use it well.
And I think you hit the nail on the head, because anyone who first shows up to GPT, shows up to a tool like ChatGPT and starts to learn this tool and how to use it, that's one of the first things they notice is like, wow, look at all this text I have to type as a prompt to get this much smaller result. And I talk about this in the training too. It's kind of funny. You think the sense is that like you're wasting your time. But in fact, what you're doing is you're learning how to prompt. The prompt skill is so critical. And what you want to do is go deploy that skill to create a prompt that gets used over and over. And what happens is there's an ROI here where if you spend 5 hours on this incredible prompt that yields a semi-perfect result in a specific use case, in a specific business process that gets used over and over 1,000 times a year, let's say, think about the scale, the ROI on that. If that just sits there, assuming there's not too much drift in the language model over time, and that just sits there and just keeps yielding results and results and results, and it saves so much time going forward. So as an individual, and I like to encourage everybody, even though you're spending so much time on a prompt, what you're doing is you're learning how to prompt and you're learning how to get a specific result. And you're not going to use that personally in your personal life. You would just go do the result yourself if it's a one-time thing. But if it's something maybe even you personally use every week, you're going to want to save that prompt template, which is what you talked about a little bit before we jumped on the call, which is we need to be, as an organization, identifying how we're storing prompt templates, how we're reviewing those prompts, how we're measuring the performance of those prompts. This is the path that we need to go down. And I think you're right. I think as long as we're sort of looking at this from a higher level, like being a little bit overwhelmed that we think the AI is going to take over an actual worker, yeah, it does get very complex. It's very hard to implement AI in that way. But if you keep what Salesforce says, the human in the loop, and you're looking for a result that's like 80% there, and a human's going to take the rest of the way, that 20%, to finish it out as the final solution, then all of a sudden you can sort of take a bite out of AI and you can start to progress forward with it. At least that's what I see.
But if you think of a prompt like code, so obviously if you're just typing something in to get an answer, that's like Google search. But actually, if you're now embedding those prompts in your application, think of it as code. The mindset is not, I'm going to write the code every time I use it. No, you're going to write it once and get it really good and then rerun it. As you say, you get the ROI because you've optimized that prompt. Now, it's a bit harder to optimize the prompt because every time it hits a large language model, the results are coming back that could be different. So therefore, we need to track for drift and we need to monitor and do some different things. But if we think of it as code and then apply the disciplines that you'd expect in code, which is source control and continuous improvement and tracking and monitoring. And I'm not sure I'm seeing yet the prompt engineering platforms that enable you to build a template, optimize it, see how it's applied. Because it's more than just a prompt. We actually need to abstract it away and go, there's a template I reuse, and then that template creates a prompt, that prompt that gets reused. And that's where the ROI comes out. And I'm sure we'll see that. But at the moment, I think there's a huge role in terms of training people on just what that means and then get good at actually understanding how to construct the prompts. Because you swap two words, you get in a sentence, in a prompt, you get a dramatically different answer. So you said 5 hours, but Elements GPT, we're building user stories off the back of process maps. It took the team 3 days to optimize the prompt, but the results are really, really good. So I did a presentation the other day, and the last slide was about trying to find a sweet spot for AI. And I think it's the intersection of three things. It's, first of all, is there a huge ROI? Is there a 10x, 50x, 100x ROI on it? But it's three intersecting circles, and the sweet spot's in the middle. The other one is, can it be applied? Can you actually do this? If it requires gigabytes of data that need to be pristine, yeah, it's not going to happen. Okay. If it's something that can drive off data you've got, or the prompt you can write is achievable, okay, that's great. So back to the Elements GPT example, we're driving user stories being written off the back of a process map. If you can draw a process map, boxes, lines, inputs, outputs, then you can get a result. So yeah, easily applicable. But then the last bit of the intersection is, can you trust the results? If every time you go, yeah, that's not that good, and therefore you have to check every single result, then again, that use case isn't good enough. So you need to get the prompt so it actually is giving you some repeatable results. So it's the intersection of ROI, can you make it achievable, and are the results trusted enough to actually make it? And I think we need to find those sweet spots to work out. That will be what drives adoption of AI, when we find the sweet spots that really work.
Yeah, I think so too. I think identifying those sweet spots gives everyone that aha moment. When you're looking at it, you see that sweet spot show up. And one of the things that we train on in the AI Force training program is we walk you through a use case for Flow GPT. You build out, there's an email to case in the org, and what you're building out is inside of a flow. You call AI, and AI, it will go and reference a document, consume that as a part of the prompt, and then come back and give a suggested resolution to the case for the customer.
Wow.
And yeah, and I think one of the things, but I say that because one of the things that you mentioned is that inside there, you have to review the response. And one of the things that we train for is you have to, as a professional, the admin going and deploying this, you have to actually read the response over and over again and try different things. You tweak your prompt, you get a different response, and you keep tweaking it until you're satisfied with the result. And I think as organizations, once we start to see use cases like this demonstrated and deployed and actually working, or use cases like what you're offering with Elements, with the user stories actually deployed and actually working, I think we see the sweet spot show up. And I think the more and more that happens, the more and more everyone's going to lean in, and the adoption will start to accelerate. But right now, we were mentioning this, it just seems to have slowed down just a little bit. I think there's a little bit of paralyzation in the market, a little bit of sort of like wait for the tool, but then not even sure if you want to use the tool, or not sure if the ROI is there. And we're really striving for getting everybody educated to the point where you understand the tools exist, where they're deployable, what the ROI is possibly for an organization based on your use case, and then also the talent that you have to have, you know, on site to actually maintain and upkeep and just get the most value out of it. Yeah, there's a lot to it. There's a lot to this adoption process for AI, it seems.
Well, okay, so we had an all hands meeting, and we said, okay, we do them every couple of weeks, and we said, okay, well, this time let's make it collaborative. Everyone will go around all the different business units and tell us how you're using AI, what tools you're using, what results, what's not working, and then how well you've operationalized it. And it was quite interesting going around, I mean, using it for images generation, using it for text generation. Interesting, our product management team had operationalized it most. They already had a database of prompts, templates. They applied those prompt templates, completely sort of filled in the gaps, and it automatically builds the website of all of our future product enhancements that our internal teams can look at. That's built automatically through a set of prompts, which they've optimized over time. So that's just one example of how they were using it. But actually getting a collaborative forum where people in the organization who are excited and playing with it, where they can bounce ideas off each other rather than everyone iterating in their own silos. I think it probably is the first step in organizations. Now, whether that's driven by the center of excellence or driven by an individual who cares, it doesn't matter. But I think corporate adoption is not very high. Individual adoption actually is. But everyone thinks they're on their own doing stuff. And actually, we need to be a lot more open as leaders to go, okay, there are no wrong answers. It is a bit of the Wild West. Let's everyone find out what we're all doing. Let's set some guardrails so we don't get hurt. Let's set some policies about, okay, everyone can take a GPT license, and let's work out what's working and get everyone in the same room. And people will self-select. Those people who are doing stuff will all want to get together and start to iterate and go, okay, wow, that worked for you. Let me learn from you. And I think that's how it's going to start. It's very much grassroots. Corporations that I think are sitting there going, oh, I'm not sure what's going to happen. I'm still worried about data security. I'm worried about reputation. And that's quite scary, because actually at the lower level, people are already doing this stuff. And at some point, the senior people are going to meet the junior people and go, oh, hang on, what have you all been doing?
Well, I think it's interesting. Yeah, what you just described is sort of a kickoff for any company, any organization that doesn't have a formal AI strategy, or even if you have your formal AI strategy and this isn't on the list of things to do. I mean, just prescribing that to leadership as a step one, just ask yourself in your own organization at all levels, tell us how you're using AI today. How are you using it? And also tell us what's working and what's not working, because the moment that you can sort of grasp the scope of that, specifically what is working or what is not, right, to help others sort of throw that away and stop playing with it, then you're immediately going to get a return on investment for what your organization employees already are doing as a part of their own independent research. So put it in your AI strategy, I think, right? Put it in the strategy itself.
Yeah, and the first thing is some policies. Okay, not you can't do this, but actually trying to get some. Okay, so we're using a bunch of tools. Let's be sensible about it. You can stick ChatGPT Pro on your expenses every month. Those sorts of things. And I can imagine legal going, right, no, we're not doing that. Don't do that. Stop this, stop that. And all that happens is the ROI for some things is so strong, it'll just drive it underground. So I always talk about PASTA, which is policy, amnesty. We're at the amnesty stage, where actually policy as well needs to be put in place. But amnesty, which is tell us what you're using, and none of us will go, don't do that. And then S is support, which is how do we all get together and make the most out of it, whilst at the same time, IT does T, which is the technology evaluation, which is, okay, what platform should we be using? Which ones are safe, which aren't? So then we can move to A, which is how do we drive some level of adoption? And we're at the PA bit of PASTA at the moment. And I think people are a long way from the STA piece. And if we're not careful, we'll end up creating StealthGPT, which is we drive it underground. Nobody knows about it until it blows up in someone's face, in IT's face, or there's a reputational issue because we lost a bunch of data and no one realized, or we created a bunch of images which actually we don't know who owns the IP for it because we used. None of this is. There's no legal precedent for lots of this stuff as well. So there needs to be a level of trust in our employees, but we need to give them enough guidance and structure and support.
It's so true. Yeah, it does feel there's a little bit of a sense of the Wild West here. And yeah, organizations should be providing guidance and support, providing framework, rolling out either, at least at a minimum, a bare bones basic AI strategy, even if it's 3 bullet points, starts somewhere, do something, and just start down the path. And yeah, the stealth GPT thing it's a very interesting concept, because I could certainly see that playing out. The way it feels now is that's the path we're headed down. I think most organizations could sort of revert and actually come up with a strategy and start executing on something. Even if you're not sure what tool set's available for you to implement and start using effectively, at least start the research portion. There's unfortunately a lot to do, but it's also a really exciting space to be in and to watch it all play out and to be able to train professionals along the way to actually get actionable information out of it all. What are your thoughts on for GPTDreamin 2024 as we roll in and look forward to that? We're talking about the current state of AI. It will be in February 2024. where do you think we'll be by then? What do you think will have developed and evolved between now and that time?
Right. So by February, some of the Salesforce products will be GA. I don't think it'll be about product. I think it's actually about those sweet spots. I'd love to have a bunch of stories that people have gone, I've used it in this area and it's really, really working, and the ROI I've got is X, to actually inspire people to go, okay, I know AI is important. I've been searching for the really good use. Oh, hang on, you've just shown me one that I can apply that A is safe enough, my organization will go for it, and I can see a personal benefit in it. So I think if we can get those sorts of stories out against a backdrop of, this is what some AI best practices looks like. I'd love to see a session on, okay, a senior person talking about what policies they've set and how they've thought about it, and maybe have a debate with legal where legal's going, oh, I don't do any of this, versus the head of innovation going, no, but we have to. So I think there's a senior level piece about policy, but then there's a grassroots bit about what's really working.
Yeah, I like that a lot. It's interesting you say that, because that's something that I was actually going to come to you with, is this idea of telling the story a little bit more from a senior level perspective. And I really like this thought about having almost like a debate, like a panel on stage, to talk about all the challenges that each sort of role or function is facing as we sort of progress into this, and almost put on display the friction that most organizations are facing, and maybe even come out of that with sort of some takeaways. Like, okay, if you find that you're facing this friction inside your organization, here's some of the things that you can do to sort of break that tension and start progressing forward a little bit. Yeah, I think that'd be great. And then from a product rollout standpoint, yeah, I can't imagine there's going to be some revolutionary, rollout generally available like across the org, incredible solutions. I think it's all going to be, like you say, sort of more niche, more focused, but also extremely valuable. I would hope that if we're deploying it, something extremely valuable, and something for everybody to sink their teeth into a little bit more. And especially from a training standpoint, I want to get something that we can take a deeper dive into on the Salesforce platform itself. That'd be really nice to have.
And I think Salesforce is working hard on the Einstein platform in terms of the trust layer, because everything hinges around that, I think. But ISVs are making huge strides. You talk to different leaders there who are building Salesforce related products which are using AI, because they're not constrained by being part of the big machine. They're actually making huge progress. And I think you did the survey back in for the first GPTDreamin. I think the distance people will have come, and then all the new products that have appeared. I think you're going to have your work cut out just even trying to even shortlist the ones that you're going to look at, rather than be able to evaluate all of them.
I think that's a good thing.
I'm really looking forward to it. I think there was the question, which was, is there even a role for GPTDreamin in February? I think there is. I think maybe 2 years from now there won't be one, because GPT will just be, no one has a mobile dreaming or an internet dreaming, because or electricity dreaming. That's just a course. But I think we're still at the point of people defining what, and trying to be inspired by actually what's possible with GPT.
Yeah, is it time to rename it to AI dreaming? Is that a thing?
No, I don't think so. AI is too broad. AI has been around since 1950. Turing defined AI in 1950. So no, I think it's definitely GPT. We need to keep it narrow. So actually, based on the backdrop we just talked about, then call for papers should be out fairly soon. So we're interested in hearing people's ideas about what they want to come and present.
Yep. Everyone should go ahead and start registering for attendance. Do we have that open yet? The registration? Maybe not. We will. We'll open that up at some point for 2024, and then also we'll do the call for GPT tech vendors, and we want to know what everybody has going on behind the scenes, or maybe things that are publicly available that we haven't heard about yet, and maybe focus in on that ROI. And I think it's going to be great. It's going to be a great session this year, or next year technically, to talk about where we stand. It's really remarkable that we're going to have, say, every 6 months, almost a state of GPT.
There we go.
Almost a marker in the sand. I kind of like it.
Yeah, it's good. I'm looking forward to it.
Yep. All right. Well, good to chat with you, Ian. I guess we'll catch up soon.
Okay. Thanks a lot.